Good evening, everybody. Last year, I was on the Chandrashila Summit. You must all go there if you can. The trek is not a difficult one, but the sight that you get to see from the summit can knock you off your feet. When the first rays of the sun falls on the Chokamba Massif, this is what you see. This trek starts from Sari, a small village in the remote part of Himalayas, with just about 150 houses. In a corner of this village is a small gully by the mountainside filled with trash. Most of it, tourism waste. And this is just one of the many gullies in Sari. Most trekking villages have the same problem. I would like you to look at these beautiful meadows. Just behind the mule, in the clearing between the mountains, is a dump spot very similar to what you saw there. Most of the treks in Himalayas share the same fate. Now, I would like you to imagine this wilderness. Most of these places are inaccessible. Corporations, municipalities do not exist here. Dustbins, waste collecting vans, things that we take for granted in the cities do not exist here. The nearest landfill is almost 250 kilometers away. Now, how do you solve the problem of waste in such remote locations? This is what my team has been working on for the past 6 years. I head the Green Trails team. The Green Trails project is an independent division of India Hikes, one of India's largest trekking organizations. This is the problem that we are trying to solve: to find a way to clean the mountains and to reduce the inflow of waste. Our approach to solve the problem was simple: educate villagers and trekkers, provide a system to collect waste, transport the waste to the landfill, and maintain it over time. To me, it was a matter of providing the right infrastructure and putting in the right system. But it turned out to be a difficult and a costly task, an unsustainable one at that. We were putting in expensive means and resources to bring down waste. But this is where our waste was heading to: landfills, a place where waste is left for eternity and forgotten. And that got us thinking. To us, it seemed like we were simply transporting the waste from one place to another and transferring the responsibility for it. Mind you, the waste has not stopped growing. We realized that building infrastructure and putting in system is only good to manage waste. To truly solve the problem of waste, we needed to do two things. First, you need to increase the amount of waste that we were collecting. We needed to match the rate at which waste was coming in. And we needed to reduce the amount of waste that we were generating or taking to the landfill. And that required more than an infrastructure solution. It required us to look at the problem in a completely different way. It required us to change the behavior of people. By behavioral change, I mean looking into our own habits and perceptions that we have about waste. And this is not simple. How many of us have tried to bring about a behavioral change in our own lives? Just think about the last time you had to get out of your bed for an early morning run. I have tried to make a lot of behavioral changes in my own life, and each of those tasks have been Herculean. If changing myself was so difficult, imagine getting total strangers with different outlooks to do the same. It almost seems impossible. But we knew that inculcating habits and making people think is the right way to do about it. Because when done right, this solution is far more sustainable and far more effective. Today, I would like to share 3 such stories of behavioral change that we have been working on. The first problem that we needed to solve was to increase the amount of waste that we were collecting. Every year, more than 5,000 people just go to one of these treks. As a general practice, when you are going on a trek, you're required to follow leave no trace. meaning that you don't leave anything behind other than your footprints. But this is hardly practiced. It is ingrained in most of us to just throw the waste that we have in our hand. Even the most conscious trekker struggles with this. When you're climbing a steep mountain, fighting for your next breath, this is the last thing in your mind. Inevitably, a lot of waste is generated. To clean this, we needed to do two things. First, we needed to stop people from littering. And second, we needed to clean up the litter that's already there. How do we do this? Our solution was EcoBag. This is an EcoBag. Each one of our trekkers gets this. In fact, one easy way to recognize an India Hikes trekker is through an EcoBag. The instructions we give them is simple. Wear this, pick as much litter as you can from the trails and around the campsites, and when you reach the campsite, hand it over to us. We immediately noticed a strong behavioral change in people. The mere presence of an EcoBag around their waist stopped people from littering. And give a little bit of motivation, they even started picking up other people's waste. No further instructions required. Until then, trekkers always thought that waste was somebody else's problem to solve. Even the most conscious trekker could not figure out what they can do to solve the problem. The EcoBag empowered everybody to feel part of the solution. And they proudly did that. The problem became more approachable. With the entire community participating, the inherent shyness that we have to participate in such activities reduced. The impact went much beyond this. As more and more people saw us collecting waste, people hesitated to litter. The amount of waste that was coming in to the amount of people going on the treks reduced. Not just that, even the communities around our treks started to notice. They became more conscious. Their waste reduced. Some of our trekkers went back and took this initiative and went back to clean their treks around their homes. Now, most other trek organizations in the Himalayas have their own eco bags. Eco bags have sort of become a symbol of how we run treks right now. We were able to convert a culture of indifference into a culture of proactiveness, all with just an eco bag. With just this, we were able to collect more than 50,000 kgs of waste in the last 3 years. Let me also say this. EcoBag has not solved the problem completely. We still have people who come and tell me why I need to pick up somebody else's waste. And we still have a lot of waste to pick up. But we are moving in the right direction. Now that brings me to the second problem that we had. How can we solve the amount of waste going to the landfills? When I joined India Hikes, we were not segregating the waste. So all the waste that we collected was going down to the landfills directly. But we knew that segregating waste can significantly reduce this number by 60 to 70%. That meant that of the 50,000 kgs of waste that we collected, more than 30,000 kgs of waste can be prevented from entering a landfill. That's a huge number. But segregating at source is a difficult task. We all knew it was important. But how do you get to do it? How many of us segregate at home? I know most of us don't. Some of you do. But how do you get trekkers to segregate at a trek? Imagine they're all coming to the campsites after a hard day's trek. You're least motivated to do so. But I knew that this was the right way to trek. Building this habit is difficult. But it was not impossible. So we tried different ways, and we failed miserably many times. To give you an example, we put clearly labeled sacks in all our campsites. In our briefings, our trek leaders would clearly instruct the trekkers to segregate the waste at camps. But this waste still came back unsegregated. We realized that trekkers, even after the briefings, did not know which waste went where. And a lot of them did not bother. So we went ahead with strong posters, more strong illustrations, stronger briefings, but still the problem persisted. Until one day, we threw a plastic sheet on the ground and asked everybody to come join us segregate. And we noticed that trekkers happily did that. We were able to do it quickly and a lot more accurately. How did that happen? We noticed that trekkers needed nudges. Every one of our trekkers knew that segregation was important. But after a hard day's trek, it was just easy to skip. So that nudge helped. Doing it as a collective activity brought about a collective responsibility. Even the bystanders participated. Peer pressure worked. And when they're doing it together, they're helping each other correct their mistakes. So the accuracy improved. Not just that, people's outlook changed. I heard trekkers talk to each other saying it is so hard to pick up waste and how easy it is to throw waste on the road. A lot of them, when they were segregating mixed waste, realized how important segregating at source is. And for a lot of them, it was a moment of humility. They appreciated the work that people in the grassroots levels working in waste management were putting in. In short, the short act of segregating waste at source made people think. And doing it every day on the trek helped build a habit. Now, over time, we've been able to successfully divert more than 60% of the waste from landfills. The rest is recycled or composted. That brings me to the third story of this evening. So our waste collection was going up. We were diverting almost 60% of the waste from the landfill. Now what happens with the 40% of waste? The problem with this 40% waste is that it's mostly non-recyclable. Chocolate wrappers, biscuit wrappers, shampoo sachets, things that we don't hesitate to throw out easily. I remember catching hold of a kid who was trying to throw down a plastic wrapper and asking him, "Why are you doing it?" The response he gave back to me was, "What else can I do with it?" And that's what we went out and tried to do. Figure out what we can do with this non-recyclable waste. It is important because in these villages around our treks, much of the waste that is generated is non-recyclable waste. And most of the women here and the people here either throw them down the mountains or burn them. So we needed to show them an alternative way of handling it. And the best way to do so was to make them realize the value of it. And that's when we came up with the concept of upcycling. And we targeted our women. We realized that if we are able to change women, we will be able to bring about a strong change even in men and children. So the first thing we needed to do was figure out what to upcycle. So we had two constraints. So the products had to be easy to make and simple to make. And second, they needed to have utility. So after a lot of thought, we came up with bottle bricks, eco-pillows, and coasters. They were very easy to make, no skill required, and had use everywhere. Initially, the women were hesitant to segregate the wrappers and clean those wrappers. But over time, when they started getting revenue out of the sales, their perception changed. Women who used to burn or throw the waste started collecting them. They would keep it safe until we used to have our workshops. They even went ahead and started picking waste from the streets. Cleaning the waste became easier. Waste became opportunities and had a lot of value. Now, we are able to impact more than 12 villages and over 100 women. We've made hundreds of cushions that we've sold to our trekkers. Trekkers buy them happily, and the women want to make more of these cushions. On the other hand, our bottle bricks have become a huge hit. We were able to make benches, walls, shelves, everything that the villagers can use themselves. All of this has decreased the amount of waste that is going to the landfills. The same kid now throws the wrapper inside a bottle brick instead of throwing it down. The streets of the villages were getting visibly cleaner. A recent testament to our efforts was when the block development officer of a village called Bijanbari near Darjeeling got the entire villages to make 4,000 bottle bricks to build a wall around his facility. He has promised to make more such projects for the village and has encouraged the villagers to make more bottle bricks. That is a powerful example of how a community can come together to solve the problem of waste. 3 years ago, the same communities have asked me for dustbins, somebody to collect waste, and somebody to take down the waste. Today, the very same people see other ways of using their waste that cost almost nothing but can handle almost everything. Earlier, when I used to look for long-term solutions, incinerators, pyrolysis machines, recycling centers seem to be the only solution. These solutions are impractical in these remote locations. It seemed like we were almost working towards a dead end. Today, we are able to solve these problems without the need for any of them, all with a change in perception. The 3 stories that I've shared has helped show how behavioral change can be used to clean the mountains better. Today, my team is working to reduce the waste from getting generated altogether. Through these exercises, I learned behavioral change can happen when you make it easy for people to take responsibility, provide constant nudge, and get them to assign value. This is applicable, in fact, to almost all of our social problems, and that makes it a powerful tool that we cannot ignore. It takes tremendous energy to get somebody to change their mind about something. Imagine getting them to change their behavior. It seems like a mountainous task. But I believe that this is the right solution for the problem of waste. In fact, it is the final solution for the problem of waste. The final solution does not lie in external agencies, not the government, not infrastructure. It lies in behavioral change. We need to change people's behavior, and the best place to start is ourselves. Thank you.